Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sunday Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Brewer, and our guest today is Ms. Marilyn Penny of Life Guide Coaching. Marilyn is going to discuss with us how one can use the Akashic Records for soulful living. This is a powerful discussion. You don't want to miss not one moment. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sunday Soul Podcast. My name is Dr. Lisa Brewer, your host, and I have with me Ms. Marilyn Penny. And Marilyn and I have worked together for 6 months now, I think. It's been at least that.
Almost a year.
Has it that long?
October. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, guys. So almost a year. Marilyn has come through the Practical Light Worker, and she has such a unique way, a method, modality of utilizing the Akashic Records for all sorts of things that I would have never imagined. And then there's so much depth and layer to this, and I had to bring her to you today. Marilyn, thank you for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Lisa. I'm so thrilled to be here.
I'm so excited. So you are the head, the CEO, the founder of Life Guide Coaching. Yes. She's one of our Canadian sisters. Tell us a little bit about how Marilyn got to this place. Like, what's your origin story? How did this all happen?
Well, I was raised a Catholic girl in a very religious family, which many of us have come from that background. And after being married, well, I guess during the time that I was married, I went through some very dark depressions, clinical depressions, and I really lost myself a number of times. I had a child, and it just continued to get worse. Religion just didn't do it for me. I wasn't, and I tried a number of different things, and I think I uncovered ultimately that the marriage, which went on for 25 years, which was what was preventing me from moving on. So I ended the marriage, and that was the start of my spiritual journey, my spiritual awakening, my understanding that there's more. And I took my experiences from my corporate life as, as a coach and a manager in many different ways. And I studied life coaching, and then I discovered Soul Realignment and reading the Akashic Records. And it just makes my heart sing. So I just love this work, and I am always looking for more souls to help.
That is just tremendous. Guys, we're going to have a playlist out on YouTube for those of you that are listening on other platforms. We'll have a link to that playlist where Marilyn has done for me a soul realignment reading. We've done property clearing, and then also a relationship. What do you call your relationship reading? I don't want to call it something that's not.
Relationship reading.
Okay, good.
No,
just that simple, Lisa. Relationship reading, and this is not your mother's, like, this is not your auntie's, like, readings. This is like nothing else I've ever experienced. And you guys know I do, and I've experienced a lot. But I'm always fascinated because in this quantum space of consciousness, there's so many layers and different ways that spirit consciousness shows up, and just so many different avenues to unlocking those energies, blocks, misalignments, where the traumas have come in, or just experiences, whatever, and how they then factor into how we live our lives, from childhood all the way through adulthood, and things that are still like happening now. Like, this is a completely different way to come towards shadow work. And I think that's one of the biggest things for me that just enlightened me so much. So you guys can check those out. I put parts of them in the playlist, and you'll have that that link. So I definitely want you to do that because it was just tremendous for me. So where would you like to start here? Because what I find fascinating, I read Akashic Records, read Galactic Records, this whole concept of soul realignment and then discovering all of these different things with relationship with self and with others and the property. All of this, to me, the accuracy of these readings is off the charts. Talk to me a little bit about this process, like when you're going into the Akash and going and kind of doing your investigative work. What's that like? How does this, what's that like?
Well, just to touch on the concept of what soul realignment is. So when we're created as a soul, we're perfect, right? We're loved. We haven't made any choices yet. So as we incarnate, we make a number of negative choices. Not always, but they're negative choices in not respect to society, but for our soul. So we will experience negative consequences if that choice we made doesn't resonate with our soul and our soul's journey. So as we continue through lifetimes, we will then repeat that pattern over and over and over again. So when I work with this modality, I'm actually able to, as your soul opens to me, so it's whatever your soul is ready to learn, I'm able to go through, I have a modality and I have some blocks I investigate and see what's coming up for you. And did that happen in a past life? Did that happen in a present life story? And then I'm able to build stories and uncover these negative karmic patterns that you've experienced. So then we talk about them. And that's why they're accurate, because they've actually happened to you. And you will recognize a past life story, even though you don't remember it, you've lived it again and again and again. So those blocks are coming from somewhere, and then we can release them by talking about them. I request a clearing in the records, and then you release them through your intention when we talk.
That is amazing. So when you're working this way with the Akash, there's so many, there's some of us who will say, well, there's, the Akashic Masters and and, there's like all these different levels. Like I tend to like to simplify energy in life in general. I don't care which lifetime or what dimension. I feel like we overcomplicate things as human beings trying to sort through things. Are you working with specific masters, or how are you, like, without like divulging, because this is a learned modality. This is not something you just pop up one day and just like, oh dang, I can, this definitely, guys, is a learned one. Are you like working with specific masters, or how does, kind of like a little insight into that process?
Sure. And I'm a super practical person. Like I'm a business person. So to put the woo-woo into it, I very much have a spiritual and a practical side that I like to use. Yes. So I just request access. I go into my, I visualize going up in an elevator. Here I am in an elevator on the third dimension, and I go up to the fifth dimension and I toddle out, and here's my library, my beautiful Akashic Records. And I just go in there and ask permission. And I will ask for using your name, your date of birth, and where you were born. And then I just ask to see that record. And then I use my pendulum and I ask these questions. I do not go into trance. I don't, it's not like a regression where I tell you what century you were in. None of that really, it's not relevant to this reading. And the stories I create from past lives are very much current life information. Like you can be driving, you can be you can be talking on your cell phone. Like it's okay, because all I'm doing is trying to make it relatable for you in this current lifetime, because those blocks are coming up for you in this life, and that's what we need to get rid of, right?
And I loved that the most about the soul realignment reading, especially because it was, even though I could sense within myself that there was a repetitive, this was something that was happening repeatedly over time, it made it so it made sense right now. So that my current consciousness, my current incarnate being could grasp onto it. Because sometimes even it's harder for me when I'm doing Akashic record readings to relate. Like if I see something, I guess you would call it regression. I don't even have the proper terminology evidently. But anyway, I see something back, a few centuries ago, could be like 14th or 15th century, right? And I can describe like your clothes and what you were doing and all of this, but because we're not presently in that time, it takes so much more effort and energy to make it relatable to now so you can fully comprehend it, And sometimes I try to take people back to it a little bit, but that can be difficult because we don't want to, some of these times we don't want to go back to because it wasn't pleasant. So I love the fact that you work with the records in a way that makes it relatable. And I also love the fact that it's just that simple, that we do not have to do all the ritual and guys, if you do it, that's great. I'm no harm, no foul. But as we're coming into this age of Aquarius, this age of Gnosis, and truly understanding and understanding that we ourselves have access to all of these things without having to invoke like every known deity to man in the last 6,000 years or more. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, so this drew you were drawn to this because of I'm going to assume because of self-healing. You were seeking healing of self. Is that fairly accurate?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we all come to this type of space from, we're healing ourselves. And I continue to heal myself because I relate to people and we're all in relationship to heal each other. So that's really important to me. And I think that I've always been in service to others. Like all of my career has been in hospitality and service to others and career coaching, all of that. So it just made sense, but I just wanted it to be more helpful. I just wanted it to be more, how can I generally help people in their lives and uncover their gifts and their soul's personalities and really help them shift into a higher level. It's really what it is. It's ultimately just shedding all that baggage. I had a client tell me, I feel like my wagon is so much lighter now that I'm dragging behind me. And and every time we meet, it's more blocks and more blocks. We don't ever finish, and that's okay. We don't have to know everything, even in this lifetime. But the fact that we can release things now will alleviate our next incarnation.
Absolutely. Wherever that may end up being.
Exactly.
I haven't decided if I'm coming back yet. Anyway, that's another discussion though for another day. I have to say to you, and I don't know how I want to kind of explore this, the level of empowerment that one receives after having the soul realignment, I will say for me, really, it was truly a next level of knowledge of self, but a next level of this, like, this is who I am. And I am no longer A, hiding it, nor B, going to continue to allow people to disregard it, invalidate it, or step all over it. Is that something that you find happens quite a bit with the people that you work with? Is that kind of the goal, to like step into this space, like get on your throne?
Absolutely. It's uncovering what you've forgotten about yourself. And a lot of people will say, okay, what do you do for a living? And they'll say, well, I do this. So do you like that? Well, not really, or I'm not sure. Some aspects I like, some I don't. So we'll look at their gifts and say, what if you tweaked it a little bit? What if you tried to, if you have a communication energy, what if you tried to do a little bit of training? Oh, I've always thought of doing that. I always thought I would like to do that. So, well, why don't you try that? Or somebody who has a completely different career from their gifts, and I'll say, well, what could you do that might express this gift, outside of work? And this somebody had said who has, that order energy, and she said, well, I kind of wanted to be a designer. Maybe I'll take a course. And she went off and took a course, and she couldn't be happier. Started crocheting dolls and making things, and I'm so in awe of people who are, just making that one shift or that one step, and it changes everything for them. So
Yes.
it's really cool.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about that flowing in your actual gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's I people come to me and they're like, well, my gifts, they'll start listing off 50 million clairs and, blah, 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 blah. And that's, guys, I'm not being disrespectful. But yeah, you guys know there's literally probably 50 clairs out here, and everyone's got to be a clair something
Mm-hmm.
But the gifts as they're defined or they're stated through your work are very different. What's your take or stance? Not that there has to be a judgment. How do you find that the gifts that you put forward here, that you speak on, how is it really different from like this clairsentient, clairaudient, clairvoyant,
Well, I think because they're just gifts for the everyday person walking around on the planet. They're not, the people that I work with aren't necessarily in spiritual work. So, I mean, they might have a tendency, or I say, you know what, you have intuitive abilities, you have, but your sixth chakra is blocked in these areas or at these ages. Something happened to you to make you not trust your own intuition. So things like that I will uncover, but also just from a practical standpoint, you need to speak to people, you need to write, you need to have an audience, or you need to buy yourself flowers and be around beauty. You need to, speak your truth. Like there's all these different gifts that are in this work that just, when I tell you, but you're just not expressing them. So that's why they're just, again, sort of speaking to practicality. It's every day. How can I just be more like my soul is expected to be?
Well, one of the gifts and you guys will be able to see this in the playlist. You were saying that I had like divine order, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being a Cap rising, that makes complete sense. So, guys, I'm going to tie this into a bunch of different things right now. Unconditional love, divine order, those things specifically not only tie into the fact that I need relationships. Like I like having a lot of different relationships and a lot of different levels, being collaborative, being in relationship and interaction with people. Well, I'm a 7th house Cancer sun and I'm a Cap rising. Of course, that makes complete sense. And I'm passionate about order. My Saturn is in Aries in the 3rd house with my moon. And then I'm a manifesting generator for human design. So I'm saying all this because, guys, I want you to grasp this concept, right? That this is another piece in the puzzle. This is another way of expression that can begin to tie everything together because it's so practical. And it's not like, it's not like, we're not talking about the 9th dimension here and all of this. It's just like super practical. So when you're talking about these gifts, do you find that it then helps people then who, like you said, that it's for the everyday person, and now everyday people don't feel like they don't have to be one of the X-Men in order to be special.
Exactly. And sometimes it's just giving people permission. You
That's good.
might have a soul's personality that you don't feel very comfortable on this planet. You kind of feel like you're a bit of a tourist in a foreign country. And I've presented that to people, and they're like, oh, I get it now. And it's like, you're not too driven. You have to actually have egoic desire to bring you through because you're very neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I said, a lot of it is just giving someone permission to understand who they are and accept who they are. And
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. But here's how we work with that. Here's how we make the most of that. And then
Yeah.
that sort of just turns the switch on. Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
That's the kind of stuff that, man, that lights me up from the inside.
That is amazing. I love it. Guys, we're here with Marilyn Penny of Life Guide Coaching today. Marilyn, can you give us a little insight into how important you feel like identifying not just blocks, but using that then to set intentions or like create proper intentions for our lives, I guess. That I think that's another huge part of your work. Can you explain a little bit where the intention set comes intertwined into all of this?
Yeah, sure. So I usually ask for an intention when I do the work, when I'm preparing the work, so that it's sort of triggering your soul to, okay, let's look at the blocks that have been causing these situations. So someone will come to me with, my relationships just are always breaking down, or I can't seem to get along with my kids or my spouse or I don't like my job, or these are the situations that you're in. So tell me how you want to change that. And if we uncover your gifts and if we clear the blocks that we've cleared now what steps are you going to take? What 3D actions are you going to take? I had a client from overseas who actually it was every life area. And she realized that she was just moving with these blocks. She would move somewhere and just carry this stuff with her. She thought going to a different country might help. Well, it didn't, because the stuff's attached to you. So it's going to go wherever you go. And if you're having stuff in a job, you could change jobs 10 times and you're still going to have that stuff because it's attached to you. So that was very revealing in order to remove some blocks and then say, okay, now let's try to figure out what kind of situation you want to be in. You want to move house? Let's start thinking about where you want to go and what you need to have around you. So it was just really, it's just making these shifts, and you don't have to do anything huge in your life. You just have to tweak some things, and then that opens the door for new opportunity.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I It's interesting for me because I'm not usually at kind of this loss for 3D words to help describe what is happening through this work. What I can tell you guys is this is like in Reiki and in other practical, a lot of modalities, we do alignments, we do this, we do that. This is, I would liken it to a spiritual chiropractor visit. I think that's the way
Like
that I
that.
can liken it, is it is literally a spiritual chiropractor visit
Sure.
where things are just like, it's been kind of quirky and weird. And then now we're like, oh, wait, that's why, I need to sit a little different, I need to sleep a little different. I can't say enough about this. Also, can we go into a little bit about property clearing as well?
Yeah.
Because I know we all think about that in one way. What is property clearing like how do you do that?
Okay. So typically people will sage or, crystals and things like that. And that's wonderful. And that temporarily clears your space. When I go into the Akashic Records, I go into the record of your space and I actually remove negative energies. And then I close the portals that allow them to come and go. So that's kind of a permanent clearing. Now, even after I do a clearing, you can still create your own little negative energies in your mind, in your space, and they can get stuck too. So I would refresh those. But that's sort of where the sage comes in and the crystals come in, and that sort of keeping your space energetically clear all the time. But by going in and doing this, this is a permanent cleansing of your space and an alignment with that space, with your divine self-expression, so that now you're lined up again. Because when you move into a new space and then you start to elevate yourself and work on yourself, your space stays where it was when you moved in there. So you're going to get out of alignment pretty quickly. So this is how I just get you in line with your space, and then you can grow together. You can grow independent, and it gets out of your way.
That's just amazing. So, okay, so people can do different things. Like we can get soul alignments and property clearings and relationship. Describe a little bit about, some of the services that you do provide. And then I think you've just created like something a little new, like a longer term where we can really dig deep into working with Marilyn. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, great. So I've sort of come to the understanding of doing this work for as long as I have, that it's really all about relationship. It's your relationship with your inner being. So that's soul realignment. That's where you start, because really you got to clean up your own house before you go cleaning up other houses, right? Mm-hmm. Then it's your relationship with your space. So that's your property energy clearing. Mm-hmm. Then it's the relationships that you have with other humans. So we either do a relationship reading just for you as a single person. We can do a relationship reading between you and your partner, you and your child, you and your parent, you and your business partner, your best friend. I mean, it's brilliant, because then that sort of clarifies and helps you to understand, why am I in relationship? Mm-hmm. What past lives did I share with them? How can I support that person in my life? And how did they support me? Mm-hmm. And then that whole journey, you just come along and ride with me for several weeks, and you do your session and you do your homework, and then we meet again and we do another session, and we just continue the journey. And the blocks keep coming, let me tell you. They don't stop. So there's always work to do.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And then people can work with you for how, like, they can get individual, but how else can they work with you for a little bit longer period of time? Is it that we do the 3 in succession?
A multiple week program, so like a 6-week program where we can touch on each of these readings, have a good chunk of time together, and then we reconnect another, couple of 2-3 months down the line. Let's do another soul realignment. Let's keep you fresh and clearing your blocks and moving forward in the direction.
Yeah. Absolutely. Guys, I cannot say enough. In the last, so it's been just over, I just did the soul realignment. It would have been about, at the time of this recording, about 22, 23 days ago. And then we just did the relationship reading, and we did the property clearing a while back too. But, how my life has literally changed, and how it has elevated, right? As I'm personally moving into some new things. This was just completely right on time. And it's so hard for me to even put into words, how powerful this experience was. So there's going to be links. You'll see it here on the screen if you're watching on video, and there's going to be links in the descriptions and the show notes for you to reach out and get in contact with Marilyn, and so that you can get some consultation and start the process as well. And also, though, as a gift, we're going to be giving you some guidelines on setting intentions, and a couple of things you want to talk to the folks about what we're putting together for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, certainly. So when I ask for an intention, it's usually what life areas are you looking at making a change in? Like, what are you committed to making a change in? over the next, say, 3 to 6 months. So sometimes you don't even know where to start or how to do that. So I'm going to prepare a few notes on how to identify those. And also, once you have a soul realignment, what do I do now? So it's about, identifying and relating and understanding what you've just been through and how is that going to move you forward? What steps are you going to take?
I'm excited. You guys, I need you to download that, do that, get in touch with Marilyn so that when you're coming to her, then you'll already, that in and of itself, just working through that is going to do so much for you. And then when you go to Marilyn, the spiritual chiropractor, you're going to really get you're gonna get right. You're gonna be on the right.
Realign you.
Absolutely. Crack that back. Okay. But you just got to do that. So please take advantage of that resource. It is an amazing free resource, and you'll be able to get in touch with her at lifeguidecoaching.ca. She is one of our Canadian sisters. This has been absolutely amazing, Marilyn. Thank you so much. I always like to leave my guests with the last word. Is there anything that you would like to say to the folks in parting today?
I would like to say, if you are feeling stuck or blocked, please do something, even if it isn't with me. Just go and talk to someone, watch Dr. Lisa's podcast, see, get educated, look at some things that people are doing, because I'm telling you, I was down a well for so many times over the last number of years, and I have come up and out, and I am flying, and you can too. I want to be here. If I can be of help, you know where to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marilyn. I so appreciate you. All right, gang. That's another episode of the Sunday Soul Podcast. This was amazing. Hit those show notes, hit that description, get that download, and start working with Marilyn as soon as possible. Peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. We love you so very much. Namaste, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Sunday Soul Podcast. This has been a Heart of Inspiration production. Have a wonderful rest of your day.